What's up guys, today I wanted to go over how to make a build in the Division 2. I'm not talking about a specific build, but this is meant to be a general guideline of how to start making any build that you want. There's a lot of different things that can go into a build, and especially with the Division, there's many avenues to take, and it can be a little overwhelming. So this is supposed to be a fairly beginner's guide, or maybe some of you experienced players can get one or two things out of it. When you start making a build, you need to think about what you're going to make first. Are you going to be playing a lot of solo? Are you going to be being support in a group? Do you want high DPS, or do you want to try to be a tank? There's a lot of different things to consider. The first thing you want to do when starting to make a build is to figure out what kind of weapons you're going to be using, or in the case of a skill build, what kind of skills. That's going to dictate what you do in gear slots. If you're going to be playing solo, then you might like something like a rifle or a marksman rifle as your main weapon. And something I always do is go with a main weapon that I'll be speccing into, and then a secondary weapon that I can have as a backup, or in a difficult situation where my main weapon probably wouldn't perform well. So if you're using a marksman, then something like an AR or an SMG would be a good fit in that category. The next thing you're going to want to do is put the right mods on it. So using the marksman, for example, you're not going to want to go for crit damage, because that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Its main thing is that it does a bunch of headshot damage already, so why not make it even better and go with weapon damage to help out both of your guns? Obviously there's extenuating circumstances here, but as a general rule of thumb, try to follow what the weapons are good for and not try to make them something they're not. Make sure you've got the weapon set up the way you want it. Go down there and test it in the firing range. I always do this before I start doing anything to gear, that way I can see how much certain things help, and I can find gear that does things like it, or scrap the idea completely if it doesn't go quite the way I expected it to. After you do this, you can move on to gear. Some things to note here are brand sets. Definitely make sure you look up what brand sets you're going to want, and what brand sets you can actually drop that are on those pieces of armor, because not every slot can actually get everything that you might want. Another thing to note here is that you don't need to completely finish a brand set. It does nothing for you if the last thing in a brand set is crit chance and you're not going for a crit chance build at all. Just picking one or two pieces of a brand set can do wonders for your build. Once you have figured out that, you have to start thinking about talents before you start going into attributes. Because if you want to use something like Unstoppable Force, then you're going to need at least 7 blues, and that can get hairy if you're already part of the way into making it. Just be sure that whatever perks you're going for can fit into your build reasonably. Then after you line out each and every one of these perks, then you want to start looking at what attributes are going to help you out the most, and make sure they conform with the talents that you've specified. There's no point in putting a talent on a piece if you aren't going to be able to use it due to your attributes. When you've done that, you can start looking at the attributes and start playing towards your weapon's strengths. If you're using an SMG, something with a lot of crit chance and crit damage is going to be your go-to. Something like a marksman rifle would be fantastic if you could get a headshot roll, or a simple marksman rifle damage roll, or even something with just straight up weapon damage. Then after you line out all of these attributes, you can start to figure out what mods you're going to be needing. These are fantastic ways to grab more DPS or armor in your build, and if you don't know what kind of mods you're going to be using and what you may need, you may end up with a gear piece that can't actually get rolled with the slot that will take the mods that you need. The last thing I usually look at here is skills, because I don't make a lot of skill builds, and I tend to just see what I would be using that would make my build perform better, or make something that it does good seem even better than what it is now, or by supplementing something that it doesn't quite do the best at. So these are a few of my tips for making builds in the Division 2. I hope it helps you guys out when making some of your first builds, or gives you experienced guys a different way to look at something. This is by no means a comprehensive list of things that you should be doing, but is a good little guideline to get you started. That's all I have for this video, guys. Like this video, it really does help me out a lot. Subscribe to the channel for future Division 2 content. With that, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.